Happy October, everyone! This is Wendy Irwin with Wendy Irwin Coaching and Perspicacity, and I am very excited because October is one of my favorite months. I love fall. I love when the weather starts getting cooler here in Texas. We've had many days of 100 plus degrees, both in temperature and in humidity, and I am ready for fall. I thought it would be kind of fun, since it is October and it's the month for Halloween, that what better subject than fear? So I actually love the subject of fear. It is something that we all battle every day, myself included. And I thought it would be fun to kind of give you guys a little bit of story on my first foray into fear. When I was about 5 years old, we, as a family, sat down and watched on PBS the 1922 vampire movie called Nosferatu. Now, here is a picture of Nosferatu. Now, you're probably looking at it thinking that is the most ridiculous, stupid thing I've ever seen. But when I was 5, it was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen. Now, I probably would have gotten by with just watching it, being afraid for a couple of days and getting over it and forgetting about it. But being the youngest of 2 other siblings, I became the butt of their continued jokes about vampires, Nosferatu, being scared as I walked down the hall, being jumped out at. You can imagine, if you have siblings, you know exactly what this is about. They tortured me. And partly because they tortured me, it never left my brain. It stayed there. So from about the age of 5 to about the age of 12, I was terrified of the dark. And I would lay in my bed with my head covered up, and I would just, leave this little hole open for me to breathe through. But I didn't want Nosferatu to get me. And it sounds so ridiculous now, but to my, primary brain, 5 to 12 years old, I just could not get it out of my head. Now, this is really common for us as adults to carry on these fears. So it's really typical for us to hold on to the things that we have kept in order to protect ourselves. So things like keeping us small, or keeping us safe, or not reaching out too far out on that limb because we might get hurt. So that's one of the major things that I do as a coach, is just help people walk through and push through these old fears that we put there, which did us a huge service out of love when we were younger, but now they just they hold us back. So I remember my mom had the smarts to take me to a child psychologist when I was about 10, when she noticed it just wasn't getting any better, and I still wasn't sleeping well, and I was still having a hard time going to bed. And I'll never forget when the therapist asked me, she said, "Hey, I get it. You're scared, you are afraid, and you just have this vision of this vampire, this Nosferatu, coming around the corner every night." And I was like, I did, and I just can't get it out of my head. And she said, "Well, what will happen if he finally gets to you?" And it was at that moment that I realized it was the most ridiculous thing. Like, what is he going to do if he gets me? Is he going to bite me and I'm going to become a vampire? Of course not. By the time I was 10 or 11, I didn't believe in that sort of thing. But it enabled me and gave me permission to put clarity and reality around this very irrational fear. And that is one of the things that I will never forget. That moment in time is when I stopped being afraid. I stopped being afraid of the dark. I stopped being afraid of Nosferatu. I still don't like looking at him. He still creeps me out. But one of the things I do for my clients is I tell them, okay, you're going to take this big leap. You're going to try this new thing. You're really going to go out on a limb. What's the worst thing that could happen? And it's so funny because when you kind of put it in that spin on it, people are like, you know what? The worst thing could happen is nothing that I can't handle. And how powerful is that, that you can embrace this idea of that all this dread, all this fear, all this anxiety you've put around taking this big, scary step, is the reality is that it's nothing you can't handle. And I truly, truly believe there is nothing that we as humans can't handle. Thanks.